I'm with Scott. We are going to be testing out a bunch of shoes that I've chosen. I've chosen these shoes based on no flares, a wide toe box, 1 inch to 1.5 inches in height in the heel, and it needs to be able to roll up and be flexible.
The reason why we're testing them all is because we're putting them on to an individual. So even though they have the attributes that we believe that we're looking for, we still need to test them individually to see if they work for Katie.
We are going to be using the Optogait system made by Gait. It consists of these two gates that sit on the treadmill with light sensors on it, camera, and this is all hooked up to Scott's computer here.
We always start with a baseline test without shoes, and that gives us a true read as to the quality of that individual's movement cycle, and that's our baseline. And what we want to know is that whatever we put on our feet, it must make the quality of our movement cycle better, because if it makes it worse, that shoe's not doing us any favors and potentially setting us up for injury.
So I just walked on the treadmill for 2 minutes, 3 minutes?
Yeah.
For about 2 to 3 minutes, and we went through the Optogait system, and it will spit out all of this data that looks a little bit like this.
So this is our step length graph. Every step that Katie took, we measured. And in the report, in each instance, in every phase of the gait cycle that we're looking at, we compare left to right side and how different they are. So right now in this test, Katie's step length is off by 7.1%. Numbers in the brackets stand for coefficient of variability. Essentially, the higher these numbers, the more varying that's going on, and the harder the body is trying to maintain a symmetrical step length. So we've got a little bit of an issue here. This can potentially come from concussions, but it also can potentially come from restriction in joint and soft tissue as well. As we go along here, the difference, we want to be 5% and under. For athletes, we like these numbers to be 3 and under, and the coefficient of variability to be 3 and under as well. We take the liner out because, believe it or not, that little flimsy little liner, as flimsy as that, with a little arch support, can affect one's load response and make it worse. We test the shoe bare bones, basically. If the shoe is good, then we put the Barefoot science in and go from there. Test 1 without shoes, test 2 with the first pair of shoes that we tested, and as we scroll down, we're comparing the differences in the coefficient of variability, the CV numbers as well. That wouldn't be a pair of shoes that I would necessarily choose for you.
Here are some Nike Frees. Try those out.
Again, we have an issue with step length, but it's more so now with that particular pair of shoes. Based on the fact that load response could potentially be a significant factor for injury, I would not put Katie into those shoes.
Next shoes I'm checking out are these Saucony Kenyas. Check it out.
With this pair of shoes, her step length is much better than her Barefoot step length. So from that standpoint, that's a win right there. This comparison here, instead of this one being Barefoot, I'm comparing the last two that we tested. Very comparable numbers when it comes to rotational parameters, step time, and speed. Really quite similar. So the difference here, if we were to pick a shoe, if we had to, because they're very similar, I would ask Katie which one is more comfortable. And she just mentioned that this pair of shoes, there was something there that seemed to be rubbing on her toe. And for that reason, we'd go with the one that she was more comfortable with.
There's 2 pairs of Nikes here, same shoes, different sizes. We have a 6 on this side, a 6.5 on this side. I'm normally a true 6, so I'm gonna try the 6, although these Kenyas here were a 6.5 that seemed to be testing all right. Getting in between the light gates, putting it up to 2.6.
Well, here we go. Those shoes so far have been the best of all with regards to not increasing how much rotation happens when you are taking load onto your leg. It's as good or better than your bare feet. We're trending in the opposite way we want to go. With these shoes, there is less rotation. This is still a very safe and healthy parameter. This is better. I would still tend to go with what feels more comfortable with you, as long as these numbers aren't too far apart.
These ones here are my original ones. I think I've had them for almost 2 years now. They're pretty beat up. They're a little bit worn under the soles, as you can see there. But we're gonna see how they go.
So these shoes tested well for you initially. Stance phase, going in the wrong direction, still a good number. But swing phase, we've gone from a green parameter to a yellow parameter, cautionary zone. So those shoes have worn out their welcome for you.
Oh, it's happened. So far we have comfort issue, way off, way off. And then our top 3 winners right here are the size 6, the size 6.5, and these are a 6.5 as well. I have my Barefoot Science here. I'm at a level 7. We'll put them in the top shoes and we'll see where that takes us.
So now we put the Barefoot Science in. We've done probably half hour at least of walking without any stimulation in the foot, trying on the shoes. Now we put Barefoot Science in. That's set up right now. It is working A-OK for it. They're not a lot different. They're black shoes with white soles. So I would go with the ones with the best numbers and the best comfort.
Any of you guys who want to come and get your shoes tested, which is very highly recommended, and don't forget to ask about the Barefoot Science, come see Scott at the Shockwave Therapy Center in Barrie. See you guys later.